Any day. We are live.
Welcome to Sugar. Okay, so you've already cut me off when the thing's starting, Michael. I get a feeling this is going to be an interesting show. Ladies and gentlemen, apologies for that unprofessionalism. Welcome to Sugar, Silk, and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you
No, my name's
exclusively.
not Stretch. If you read, it's not quite Stretch.
No, I don't know what the fuck is going on with people's captions this week. Michael's had a protest because I said to him, and will you agree with this, Gary, or whatever your name is down there? Now, listen, you agree with this. I said we should all have our normal formal names. Silk kicked against that. And I said, could you not put yourself as Silk this week? And as a Black Power style protest, he's called himself Silky Silk Silk. God knows what's going on with you, Gary. But in any case, we are here.
It's Sugar, Silk, and
That's right. Gentlemen, in any case, we are assembled here to talk boxing, most principally for this preview episode, the rematch between Liam Smith and Chris Eubank Jr. at the Manchester Arena tomorrow night. I've got to tell you that I wasn't a massive fan of the idea of the immediate rematch when you get a fight that was, I mean, I'm only talking about one shot ultimately, but it was pretty conclusive, the fourth round KO. I don't really like immediate rematches in that kind of circumstances, but how are you feeling it, Silk?
Myself, I anticipate a different outcome, but probably the same person wins.
Gary?
Me?
Yeah.
I disagree. I think I actually believe that I think the weight was an issue.
Yeah.
I think that
Is the weight not an issue this time?
preparation was an issue. I think he had a lot of stuff going on. I just think we got a bad Eubank Jr. on that night, and I believe that it will be very different this fight. So I know everybody's writing Eubanks off. I'm absolutely gonna stick with him. I think he's.
Well, Gary, you're a fighter.
I'll
You know,
tell you why later, but so please.
Gary, you know as a fighter that, listen, there are a million ways you can approach a fight, and what happens in your social life and what happens in your professional life, and even just getting to the ring or your relationships, all these things affect how you perform. That doesn't disclude the outcome of the fight. You can't not say, a guy lost, I was distracted, oh, I drank too much, I partied too much. These are all choices we're making. Even if you get injured going into a fight, you know that's your responsibility. And if you take that fight, you're thought of as 100%.
No, I believe Eubanks give 100%, but it wasn't available. I think he's a better fighter than what we saw, and I think that he's going to shock the world. He's not going to shock me. I tell you something. As long as there's a big factor here. You know, we all know sometimes overnight fighters change, right? Like they just go overnight. They're never the same again. You know, father time catches them and bang, they're done. If that's not the case, I don't believe it is the case, but it could be. But if it's not, if Eubanks is the usual Eubank, I believe that for the first time in his life, he has found a team, and I know it's only been 4 weeks. For me, it doesn't matter. I could get a kid who's going to get beat in a fight and talk to him for 10 minutes and change the outcome. I just put something in his brain and it would affect what he does. And
Yeah, sure, absolutely. But
Okay.
like Chris was
I
on
know 4 weeks is not long enough, but I honestly believe that he's found a situation. I think I think he's going to shock everybody this fight.
I think what's going to help him is the fact that he's not going to be on his Roy Jones, because I think that definitely hurt him in that last fight. From what I saw, he was like Roy Jones.
Look at what this kid's going through. So what his father doesn't understand, his father's upset like his son is leaving him or doesn't want him. No, the problem he has a legend father. So if the father manages, promotes, trains, if the kid wins a world title, it's because his father trained him. So he's never going to get his credibility. This is a kid who just wants to stand up on his own 2 feet. So even if his father's with him, he will never get the credibility because his father trained him.
But his father never really did train him, Gary.
But what
What's
does
that?
that have to do
Never
with
tried.
his fight? What does that have to do with his fight
His
ability?
father trained him. Then he goes into a bigger set of shoes. Roy Jones trained him. So this kid's all over the place. And I just believe that the kid wants to be Chris Eubank Jr. and be himself. And it's a very uncomfortable position when you're not yourself. And I don't believe you function well when you're not. Whatever's not right, it's not right. The fight game is a mental game, I believe. If your mind's not right, I don't care if it's 10% off, 1% off, 5% off, it affects your life. I believe for the first time in his career, number one, he knows he's not invincible, so he better get his shit together.
What makes you believe
that?
that?
I believe he's found a team, and I think they're going to bring the best out of him.
What makes you believe that? What evidence have you got to believe that he's?
Because I'll tell you something. I watched him in. I watched online. There was some training stuff, and he was responsive. He was listening. He wasn't a TV listening. He was real. I saw a back and forth with Bomac, and I'll tell you something. It wasn't only the back and forth. What Bomac said, this guy's a great trainer. I tell you, he was saying things very subtle. But I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. Because I've never really seen him. I've never seen, of course, he works with Crawford and Crawford's success is inevitable. You know, we've seen it, but I've never seen the guy in action. I saw him working with Junior and he was fucking amazing. And I'm like, wow, this guy's really, really great. So I have a feeling he looked great at the weigh-in. Like the other weigh-in, he was like a drawn out, he looked like he was dying. This weigh-in today, he looked healthy, he looked well, he looked strong.
Okay.
His mind's different. What's interesting, he walked on the stage there was like 15 of them.
Yeah.
Like he had a whole operation around him. I've found him, you know, when you get a fighter who's not 100%, he may show up at the weigh-in with 3 of them and girls in and out. He went in force. He went.
But you know, all of that makes no difference at all.
Yeah,
all the signs for me look great
Some
for
of you
you.
guys are just like they puff their chests and are all bluff and banter.
No, I don't think he likes this fight. I think this fight has been very low key. I tell you what's funny. If we get a Eubanks who's on point. Not cautious. He's got to go and do his physical thing. He's got a great engine, we know. He's got to go and put it on Smith. But if we get a Liam Smith who comes in thinking he's the fucking man and doesn't take precaution, he could get knocked.
He could run into something.
Yes, and I think we may get an overconfident Smith and a very prepared Eubank. And it could be a very different fight.
Thing is, here's the thing. Now, Liam has already beaten him once. You know what? That kind of like, and the way the ending was so abrupt but real and so definite. Like he was undeniably hurt really bad, and it could have ended if the referee didn't jump in. It could have been a lot worse, right? Now,
Yes.
You know what that does for an individual's confidence. Now Liam Smith is coming in like King Kong. You're right, but he's coming in King Kong. He goes, all I have to do is put this fist on his face. And I know what's going to happen.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
But Eubank doesn't have that same thing, and conversely, he doesn't have the same thing.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been to the gym? Let's say you're on holiday with the boys. Let's say you're on holiday with the boys, right?
Okay.
And you have a night out. The boys all go home early, but you end up out, and you get a bad night, and you get back home at 5 a.m. And you've got to be in the gym at 8 because the boys have made a promise. And you go and it's a nightmare and you get through it, right? So let's just say that happens. And you train terribly and you just get through it. This is a crazy analogy, but hear me out. And then 4 days later, you've been resting, you've been eating well, you've been sleeping, the boys got the gym again, and you're like a different person. That's 4 days later. Now, I'm saying I think that for whatever reason, this is just my gut. I think Eubank showed up at the last fight. I'm not sure what happened, and we'll never know. I just don't think he was himself. I might be completely wrong. If he wasn't, and now he is, it's
Gary, nobody is ever them. Nobody, Ben, Gary, nobody is ever themselves when they lose. That's for sure. 100%.
yes, but there's reasons why you lose, Michael. You know,
Yes,
we have reasons.
Here's the thing: when you said that he looked weak and the weight was a problem last time, Gary. One thing that Michael asked immediately was, "Why isn't the weight a problem this time?" Could we expand upon that?
Well, there's 3 pounds. It was 157, I think, the last one. This is 160. But you know what? 3 pounds.
No, it wasn't. The thing was, he was supposed to fight Conor Benn at 157, and
Right.
he made a point. Some people cited the fact that he made a bravada's point of making that weight regardless, even though the fight fell out because Conor failed the drug test. He posted on social media he'd still made the weight, even though he didn't have to. And some people think he weakened himself for the fight, the start of this year, January 21st, because he tried to prove that point.
Okay, so let's look at that. So that's ego bullshit. That's not a fighter in the right mental state. If it was Terence Crawford, if it was someone else, they wouldn't show up 157. They'd just write that fight off. New fight, they would show up. So there was a lot of stuff going on, all the bravado, all the bullshit, and it affected the performance. This fight, I believe, he's just completely said, okay, 160, best camper can get, no bullshit, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Let's just be everything I can be. And I believe if he is everything he can be, and he's not gone over the fucking, he's not just, he's not finished. Like when people turn overnight, if he can be the best he can be, I believe that best is better than Liam.
So the thing is, when you look at the first fight, Eubank says one of his quotes was he was dominating until he got caught, like it was just like an isolated incident. Michael's already smiling. I don't see it that way either. I think in terms of ring generalship, Liam Smith was doing exactly what he needed to do and was getting closer. Whether Liam Smith didn't win every round, Eubank Jr. definitely won the third round, and if he could replicate that 12 times tomorrow night, then he wins the fight. But Liam Smith, with his high guard and head movement, feinting, he's a solid, well-schooled, fringe, world-class contender. I think he was walking Eubank into that KO, which was perfectly conclusive. So I don't see that Eubank was dominating the previous time. I don't know what your thoughts are, Michael.
Yeah, Smith was doing like what he does. It was intelligent pressure. He picked his punches well. He threw in combinations. He's quick, and he brought it back to high guard. He understands his limitations. He understands what his strengths and weaknesses are, from what I saw. Eubank was, I think he was confused. I don't know. I think he was absolutely confused. And he started to get a little bit more confident before. Was it the third round when he started to get off a little bit more?
Yeah,
really confident. And when you're feeling that confident, everything's going good, and then all of a sudden the whole world collapses on you, that's a mental issue you got to deal with. You know what I mean? Although I have listened to Eubank's talk, and in hearing his conversation, he does sound like a person who's been able to like really differentiate the two experiences so far. Sometimes when you step in the ring, you abruptly get reminded as soon as you feel that right hand, and then you're like, oh my God, this again. And you know what I mean? It feels a certain way. If you can
because I know, Gary, you were stopped the one time as a pro, and then you only fought once after that. And I know, Michael, you were stopped, I believe, only the one time as a pro as well. And
no, I wasn't stopped. By who? I had Barkley down. I don't remember the rest of it.
Okay, yeah. But you see, what the reason I ask you fellas this is because it's about what it does to your psyche after that. Even though Gary didn't have a very long career after that particular point, because one fighter who was able to compartmentalize devastating KO losses like they never happened to him actually was Amir Khan.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like when I had that fight with Barkley and I got stopped, I didn't think the fight should have been stopped. I was openly talking to the referee, and even as he was coming closer to us, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a different thing. It wasn't so, I mean, even though Eubanks wasn't like laid out on the ground either, he wasn't laid out, and he did, complain right away as well. But
He was gone. His legs were gone, right?
Yeah,
Do
he
you not
looked
think?
like he was gone. I don't know. I thought the ref was a little quick, but I don't know what happened. He knocked him down once, and he hurt him the second time, right?
He hit him with a big uppercut. It was a combination, and he had him in a bit of trouble on the ropes before the conclusive left uppercut landed. He was very good with the follow-up combination. Eubank went down, very glassy-eyed, his head rocked back. He was walking like a drunken man aboard ship when he got up. And then the referee let it go on for a little bit longer, and then stepped in when he could see he was all at sea. I mean, did you think it was a fair stoppage, Gary?
I think the first fight, you could say Liam Smith was doing his thing, and I think it was the first fight was 3 rounds of I don't think anyone had an upper hand. I don't think Eubanks had an upper hand. I think they were both just all over the place. I don't think anyone was planning his I don't think Liam Smith was leading him into a trap. I believe it was like a little chaos. Eubanks caught him with some shots. It was what it was, and then bang, Liam Smith caught him with whatever shot it was. The magic shot, was it the elbow? Was it a clean shot?
What about the elbow, Gary? What about that? People have made something of that.
Wow.
I don't believe there was any specific particular evidence that anyone was leading to anything. I think it was just chaos, and then a shot hit, and the rest is history. So I don't think either one had any kind of control over the fight whatsoever. Yeah. So I think it was just a kind of even fight. We know Liam Smith. We know the way he fights. He'll grind you down. We know he may not start well. He may but he's going to get to you, and he's going to put pressure on you, and he's going to. Yeah. So the first couple of rounds for Liam Smith, you can write him off. He's going to get to you eventually. Eubanks, I don't believe, took control of the fight. I think it was just a feeling out, up and down. No, nothing really. You could tell who was going to win or lose. It was what it was till he got caught.
So, Michael,
I just don't believe that Eubanks was the man that I think he's a better fighter than that fight.
Do you believe both of you?
We can talk on Sunday. You can all throw eggs at me and say, you idiot. But I think I'm going to surprise you guys. I think if Eubanks is who I think he is, I think he's too much for Smith.
Can I ask you? I can't ask you anything, can I? Clearly, I cannot ask you anything because I'm not getting a word in. I wanted to ask both of you in some kind of decent orderly fashion. Do you think the best bet for Eubank is to impose himself and back Smith up, or do you think he needs to outbox him all night long?
I haven't seen Eubank fight that often to know what his style is. So I don't even know if the way he fought his last fight against Smith was an aberration or not from his style. I'm assuming because he had Roy Jones in his corner, and I seen him doing the mannerisms and the feints and the hand positioning and stuff like that, the counters. At one point, I assumed it was because of Roy. I don't know if he really fights like that or some semblance of how.
Definitely an influence. It was definitely an influence. Well, what's your take on that, Gary? The Roy Jones kind of imitation and the best plan for Eubank tomorrow night?
I honestly don't think there's a plan in any fight because there's your plan, his plan, and God's plan. So I think the better fighter will win. And so I think that, Liam Smith could come in very different. I think if you're a better fighter than the other fighter, whatever happens, but you'll adjust and you'll be better. I don't think you can go in with I'm going to box him because that may not be what Liam Smith's going to allow to happen. I think the better fighter adjusts to whatever the other fighter presents and he dominates on every level. And I think that
boxing is absolutely about that. It's about the fighter who adapts best is the one that wins.
I watched your fight yesterday with Tommy Hearns, right? No, I was bored.
You need to go to sleep.
Round 9 is one of the greatest rounds I've ever seen in boxing. I tell you. But this is back to the point. Michael goes into that fight cautious, of course. It's Tommy Hearns, right?
Yes.
If he spits on you, you drown, right? He's a powerful fighter. But then Michael turns it on in round 9, and it just turns the fight on its head. And Hearns is backing up and in trouble and under pressure. That's the same guy 3 minutes earlier. You would have said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So it's not about like. I just believe that the fight game is you have 2 vehicles. You have a Porsche and a Ferrari, right? And they're of equal speed. Who drives the car is who wins the race, and who drives the car is who's in your brain. And so I think that my gut on this, and I'm not going to drive you mad with talking so much, but my gut is what driver is in you. If Eubank has a good driver in his brain, I believe he has the vehicle to win.
And that's what the driver is Eubank, or what?
I think so. I think he needs some kind of. I think his whole career has been trying to find himself, and I think that, like, again, if his father trains him and he wins a world title, it's still your father train you. I think he's just trying to find himself. Roy Jones is, Roy Jones. Now he's found a guy. I just feel like he's in a better place, and I think it's a long time overdue. Hopefully not too late. Yeah. But I just feel like when I watched them train together, it was beautiful. I thought, wow, there's like a.
I do agree. There is a strong possibility that could happen when a new trainer comes in. They bring in new ingredients, and if you change the ingredients, you change the recipe, right? I mean,
I felt it was like a massive. I can't explain it. I just felt like, wow, this kid's he's flourishing here.
What did you see him doing, Gary? What were they doing in the gym that impressed you so much?
It was minor stuff, but it was like Beaumac said at the press conference, basics. It was. If you watch Eubank, even at the open workout, right? Look at his right hand. His right hand never fucking left his chin.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful, but it was loose, but it was here. Like he fights here normally. Beaumac's got his defense intact. I don't think he's going to lose that when he gets into some silly exchange. He got the basics back, and he's still Eubank, but there's certain things you can't afford to.
It takes a hard time for those things to become instinct, though, because that's exactly what it has to do. Like the things that good fighters do are that way because they've repeated the pattern, and it just becomes a habit. So for it to become like, it's going to be very conscious, it's going to be very superficial, it's going to be very like the first thing on his mind. And when it gets into a point where he has to fight on instinct now and not on intellect, that's going to be the problem right there. Like if Liam gets into a point where they're exchanging punches, then that's going to be an issue.
That's not what I saw. What I felt I saw was a very instinctual, comfortable, he's ticked the box.
Yeah. No, I understand.
I don't think he learned it from Beaumac. I think he knows it for 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But he may not have implemented it, and now I think he's tightened a few of the things up, and he's got back to basics. And I don't think you forget basics when you get under pressure. I think he's forgot basics over the years with all the bullshit. But I think if someone's took him back to what he fundamentally learned in the beginning, I think he might retain that information. So
I remember, Michael, you want to say something? I think you.
No, I was gonna say, and then so then you're picking him by decision or knockout or something.
I think he's gonna stop him.
Yeah.
Michael, I've been over you a lot of dinners. And
listen, talking about the betting,
get destroyed on the next podcast. If I'm wrong, but if I'm right, boys.
Yeah, you're right. What are we gonna do? So Ben, what were you gonna say, Ben? Because I was gonna.
If I was gonna have a bet, I would actually bet on the fight to go the distance. You can get something like I believe it's like evens or 10 to 11. You get slightly better than evens on it. I think the fight. My prediction is the fight will go the distance tomorrow. There won't be a stoppage either way.
And who wins, Ben?
I don't know. I think it might be a contested result. I lean towards Smith, and it might be a little bit controversial with some people arguing that Eubank should have deserved a nod. But I think the fight will go 12 rounds tomorrow night. That's the only confident-ish prediction I make.
So
I don't know either one of them that well, so if I were to say something, it would be biased. Could Eubank catch a, you know what I mean, catch a bolt of lightning and do something? Of course he could. I mean, but I don't know enough of their natures or enough. I haven't seen them fight enough times to know how they react in a certain way. So I honestly can't say. Okay, I will say this: given the track record of fighters, what I think would or should happen is that Liam beats him again, and maybe even better than he did the first time. Which,
Gary, can I ask? Are you team
round seven?
Yeah, I want to ask you emotionally. Are you team Eubank from an emotional perspective? Do you actually have an allegiance to this because of your relationship?
I'm Team Smith. He's from my neighborhood.
Okay,
I love from Liverpool too.
I love everything about Liam Smith. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a great family. I think he's just a good man. I think he's a great professional. Like I should be. I'm talking about boxing, not personal. I'm talking about two vehicles. I believe one is better than the other. I believe that one was not functioning at 100%, and I believe that he will be tomorrow. And I believe that if he's the better vehicle.
I just wondered how close you were to Eubank Senior these days.
No, me and his dad, we're not friends. You know, we fought, so that you get a certain respect for each other, and of course we met a few times and became friends. But like, I owe no regard to anyone. If I was to, to talk about emotional ties, it would be to my home man, Liam Smith. He's born 20 miles from me, but I'm just talking strictly boxing. I think Eubanks is a lot better than people think. I think he has not filled 60% of his potential. I see a kid who's like a young Ray Leonard in many ways, and then but he's not, because every time he gets these tests, he fights. Every time he's been put in that world level, he's fell short. And I say, why? You can get away with it with most, but when it gets to the world class, you can't. But when you see him when he lost, he had rounds. He was like way superior in some of them fights. So he has the talent. So the only thing I think is missing with Eubanks is mental. And what is it going to take to get him mentally right? Is his career going to go by before he gets it right, or is he going to get it right? I believe that he's found a team, and finally, whether it be 4 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 2 months, I believe he's found a team. His head's right, and I think if this kid's head's right, he's going to be a hell of a hard person to beat.
Ben, I didn't know that Liam was born in Greece.
Yes.
But Liam was Greek. Yeah, it turns out it was. We've got a Greek theme going on this week, as you can see, and we had one a bit last week. Gary is still in Greece, I believe, having just wrapped the film with Mickey Rourke in Bulgaria.
Did Mickey play the bad guy, or who played the bad guy in Greece?
Who played the bad guy in Greece? I didn't.
No. Here we go again, Ben. Can you explain?
Well, yeah, but he knows now that you're not really in a remake of Greece, or at least I hope he does, because
I'm in Greece. I did a movie in Bulgaria with Mickey Rourke, and Rourke.
We get to Greece.
And then when I finished the movie, I came to Greece for a holiday. I'm not making the movie Greece.
Oh, okay.
You know what? I'd like to apologize, by the way, to some people. I'd like to apologize to some of the viewers.
And I came to Greece.
I'd like to apologize. Guys, shut up for a second. I'd like to apologize to some of the viewers on Facebook. I cannot see your comments tonight. I am getting comments on our live broadcast on YouTube. There's like Hamza Abdullah says Bomac is a great addition. Robin Katani says I bet an early KO for Eubank, but probably my heart rule in my head. I got somebody called Fishlip was asked a very pertinent question, despite the rather comical name. He says, where does Eubank go with another loss? You're talking him up, Gary, but would you, if he does lose tomorrow night, would you have a rather bleak prognostication for the rest of his future?
I think he's colourful enough to fight someone else.
Just keep going. The brand, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, he's entertaining. You know, I mean, you got to give the kid that. You know, the good thing about Eubanks, both of them, his father and him, you just don't know what they're going to do, so you tune in. So, you know, if Liam Smith lost, then they would probably have the trilogy. If he lost that, maybe they would lose interest. I think Eubanks, if he loses, there'll still be interest. I think, I mean, I'm not sure the Conor Ben fight would be as interesting.
No,
but I think that, no, it's a must-fight win for both, I think. It's certainly for Eubanks. It will definitely set him back. But I think that if this kid's head's right, I think we're going to see. If Bomac has done what I think in the short period of time, everyone says it's impossible. I don't believe it is. If he's done what I think he's done, if he's just crossed that dot,
yeah,
you know, if he's just filled that little thing, and I think he has. I just got a gut feeling. If he has, I think you're going to see a great new addition to this.
Okay, let's nail it down then. Before we discuss there's a couple of interesting fights on the undercard we might want to discuss, but let's nail ourselves down then. Last week, when me and Gary previewed Usyk Dubois, I said Usyk in 8 or 9 rounds. I got it right, but as you know, there was a little bit of a subtext to that whole story, and we've been arguing about that as well.
And I've done a lot of homework on that. You know,
and I picked Usyk as well.
Go on,
you know what? It was not a low blow, because the low blow is not the navel. I think Silk said this. He corrected me, and he was correct. It's the hip bone.
Hip line, yeah.
The hip line. It's the hip. And that was definitely above the hip. But
so one more time, once and for all, it is not the waistband on the trunks, because they vary where a fighter wears them.
It's the hip line.
Not the navel. It is not the navel. It is the top of the hips. But let's come on. Let's put our money down on this fight tomorrow night. I'm saying Liam Smith on points, possibly disputed. It might be split. Who knows? Michael, your prediction in a few words.
I'm going in blind.
Okay, yeah, half blind.
But I would say I would go with Liam again, and probably by stoppage.
Gary.
7-8 rounds, Eubank.
Okay, now to borrow a phrase from Gary on last week's episode, let's talk about the fucking undercard. The interesting fight on there, that was your words, not mine, but I've said it now. So your mum's not watching this show, I hope, Michael. But yeah, there's quite a lot of intrigue around Dave Allen versus Fraser Clark on the undercard. I suspect Michael might not really know too much about those British heavyweights, so
I could talk about it.
You, Gary, for your thoughts.
I know a little bit. Interesting fight. I think it's even. Depends on Fraser Clark. What's the other fella's name?
Dave Allen, who's like a
Dave Allen. Depends on, like, Dave Allen he's had so much time out. Apparently he's in good shape. We all know that the past he's not always prepared properly. He's been a bit of a loose cannon, but he's had a child. He has another child coming. Apparently his priorities have changed, and he's in good shape for this. So I think if he's in good shape, it could be interesting. They've worked together. They're friends. I think they've spent a lot of rounds together. So
they were very friendly at the public workout. They were hugging at the public workout.
They respect each other. Yeah, they just were just the fight, you know. So I think they've spent a lot of time sparring together too. So they know each other.
Are they throwing shots at each other maliciously, or do you think this is going to be a love fest, like a glove fest or a love fest? What is it?
You know, It's a funny thing, Gary. I didn't realise that Dave Allen's actually coming off of 4 wins. You know, I last saw him on the undercard of Dylan White, Oscar Ribas at the O2 2019 when he got stopped rather disturbingly versus David Price, and there was a bit of concern for him, and he was hospitalised and all the rest of it. I didn't realise he's quietly put 4 wins together in the last few years. You know, at least. But what do you feel
tell me,
about
Ben? Tell me who he fights like.
Who, Dave Allen?
Yeah,
David Allen. You know what? He's a white guy, stockyish, kind of white heavyweight. He's there's nothing remarkable about him, but he's a boxer rather than, you know, he's got a little bit of a dig, but he's more of a boxer than anything else. And he has.
He's a stocky. You said stocky boxer. Like what? Like 5'10", 11? Like what is?
I think he's bigger than that, but he's quite thick set. And there's no, honest to God, there's nothing especially remarkable about Dave Allen stylistically. But
and the other kid.
The other kid is an Olympian, Fraser Clark, who got a bronze medal at the Leicester Olympiad. He's got Boxer in the Sky brand behind him. He looked decidedly mortal last time out against Mariusz Vach over 10 rounds. He was it'd be interesting for you to see it and analyze it for me, but he didn't look like the stuff of legends, you know, that like you'd be thinking of someone who's got a serious assault on the world-class heavyweight scene based on the Mariusz Vach fight. Some people use the excuse it was hot in there. They said it's very hot in the York Hall in July. You may know a thing or two about that, Gary. Perhaps. Do you ever box at the York Hall?
Many times, yeah. I think maybe 4, 5 times, yeah.
In the summer, ever?
Yeah,
yeah. They blamed it on the heat. I remember he looked pretty bad against Mariusz Vach. I thought, you know, but people have bad performances on the way up, right? Historically, you get like a Cassius Clay versus Doug Jones, or, you know.
I've heard of many excuses, but never that York Hall was hot in summer.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard it for Barry McGuigan and Stevie Cruz, right, out in the desert heat in 19.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a different country, maybe open air, but not York Hall in summer. No.
Yeah, I think it was Ben Shalom, the Sky promoter, who said that it's, or else it was one of the broadcasters who said it's really hot. Do you realise how hot it is in York Hall? Everybody's got a right to look like 17 shades of shit if it's that in those temperatures. That kind of thing, you know.
All the men, but
yeah.
No, Dave Allen's is a bit of a. He's like a journeyman, but much better. He's like a high-end journeyman. He's like, but it's not because he's not a good fighter. It's like with Dave Allen, it's almost like he doesn't care. He's like he's just so laid back. He's like he just says, "Yeah, I'll fight you," and he doesn't seem to have this ambition. Maybe with ambition, he would be a much better fighter, but he's just so laid back. He's like he seems to me like a really nice man and cool, and he's just like. Okay, I'll fight you.
That's just it. Once you lose your reason in boxing,
I don't think he ever had one. That's the thing.
It's funny. He says he's a bit more laid back. First time I met him, you know, Gary, was I had a fighter boxing him on a bill in Newcastle in 2015, I believe it was, Newcastle Arena, undercard of an all Geordie world title fight, such as boxing now in the 21st century. And I had, do you remember? I think you know Big Larry Olabamiwo. I believe you two.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, I was training Larry at the time when he fought Dave Allen in Newcastle. And because Larry had the drugs ban and he just rebounded from that, Dave Allen came in that night to The Drugs Don't Work by the Verve. That was his little joke and his little pop at, I guess, our side of the fence. But unfortunately, Larry got retired after 2 rounds because he hurt his arm or whatever, you know. And Dave Allen came over to me, you know, the way you do, you shake hands with the opposing team after the fight. And he said, "Ben, your Facebook page keeps me entertained for hours." So that I got a really good impression because I thought it was quite funny. He came into that song. And then when he said that, I liked him, you know.
He's just a lovely guy. And he's just, I think he just plays at the game. So,
yeah. What song did you ask, Michael?
Yeah.
You never heard a song called The Drugs Don't Work by the Verve? Massive rock group over here. No?
No.
If I had my guitar, honest to God, and we could do this another time, but I'm not in my house, I would actually get the guitar out now, especially now I've got a computer to do it in the studio. I'll play you a few bars of that. Maybe we could do that another time. Yeah. I'll do it next week.
Can you do it a cappella?
I could do it with the guitar, Michael, and vocals.
But acoustic. That's not a cappella.
A cappella. Oh, no, I ain't singing it without my guitar. I don't feel comfortable with that. No. I'll do it Sunday.
Can you do an air guitar? Can you do an air guitar and play and sing?
Listen, we ain't going to go down this road, Silk. It ain't going to happen. I promise this is what I'll do. I'll bring the guitar to the next session if we can do it here Sunday, and I will play you the first verse or whatever if the drugs don't work. Is that a deal?
Can you just give me a link 10 minutes later?
What, so you can miss that. But yeah, you'll be 10 minutes late anyway, Gary. There's no need for that.
No, that's you. Everyone thinks I'm late. That's you. You know, the email you sent me was in junk. It was in the junk.
Because your email's obviously got a very smart filter and it knows the rubbish from the meaningful stuff.
You know,
I'm all over the world traveling, and I'm doing everything I can to be on this podcast, and you can't even send me a link.
Gary, quickly.
Gary, honestly, I talked to him about that. I was like, Ben, you need to give him enough time in order to, you know what I mean, to access the link and then click up. But he's like, well, he says, we got to start the show. We got to start. I can't do
this. He likes it without me. You know that. He wants 5 minutes of sunshine.
I get you. I understand.
Let's be honest, right? You said I'm the anchor, and you said I'm holding you both down. Who knows where you may blossom and fly off to without me, with the dead weight that's on you both, you know?
Ben, I have to give you a very hurtful truth, but if you take me off the cast, it's fine. But if you're still on with Silk, you're still going to be under the shade.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. You know,
the Silk will shine, and so you can get rid of me, but Silk will still shine, even if you're playing your guitar.
I have no delusions of grandeur, sir. And I would also like to say, at the risk of this being a bit of a loving, I'm really glad that you've come on board, even though you need to sort your name capture now, because it does feel like there's a real buzz about the show since you've come in. We were looking for we had a missing piece in our life.
Since I've come on the show, I've had all kinds of crazy people come out online telling me I was knocked out in a fish and chip shop. I've been knocked out everywhere. Everybody's knocked me out. I went to a fish and chip shop. I went to the front of the line and said, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah. I want my fucking scampi and chips right now.
No, I want my fish now. And someone said, and I said, "Get outside. Do you know who I am?" And the guy took me out.
And Gary,
this is comedy at its greatest.
Yeah.
And Kathy Lloyd on one and Sinatra on the other, yeah?
I've been in the country for 25 years, so I don't know how the fuck they've knocked me out in a St. Helens fish and chip shop.
Michael, what's the most disingenuous thing you've ever heard about yourself?
What's the sorry?
What's the most disingenuous thing you've ever heard about yourself? Gary said he's been knocked out by this guy and that guy in a chip shop and all that.
Chip shop, that's the worst place ever, right?
What's the craziest rumor you heard about yourself, Michael?
I've never heard a rumor about me, honestly.
No, you're not that kind of guy. You're not controversial. Because Gary was brash and flash, a good-looking buzz.
I was not.
No, is that not true? Is that not fair?
No, you know what? I'll tell you something, Ben. This is what's really frustrating to me. I'm a shy person.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, I got that 100% right away.
Yeah. Honest to God, I'm like anyone who knows me. I'm not flash at all. I don't have a lot of confidence, and I fought in a certain way, and I fucked a few models. Which what can I say? It's like it's part of the job, but then they all say it's flash this, but you know. I just was a kid trying to make a living. Yeah. And then so many fucking haters. And then people make stories up. And it's like, I can't imagine being someone like Brad Pitt. But the difference is with Brad Pitt, he's not a fighter. So, we have this certain thing that they think that it's cool if you knock him out. But I'm just a guy who write me a check, I'll fight you. But I don't fight in fish and chip shops. I don't go to the front of a queue. I don't, all this stuff is like, for me, it's just bad taste. And it's very sad that people, if you've got that much time on your hands, go help the homeless.
Absolutely. You know who's watching this show right now, by the way? Quite interesting. He just commented. Costas Petru. Remember him? British welterweight champion. He said, I sparred Dennis Cronin when he was getting ready to box Gary, 1988, I think it was. Very strong boy. I think Gary beat him, which you would have done. But it's kind of cool to hear from a guy like that, isn't it? Costas Petru, very strong.
Yeah, fantastic. And Cronin, he was about 20 pounds heavier than me, and I beat him, but he gave me a hell of a night. It was a rough night. He was just so big, and but I beat him barely, and
Yeah.
he was a very strong kid. Yeah.
So I'll withdraw that, Gary. I'll withdraw that statement about you being brash and flash. Perhaps that was more the persona which has been.
I think that was the persona, but anyone who knew.
Yeah, like I think when you look at him, you look at you fight, you have like a lot of pep and energy. You fight very energetically, and when you punch with, I wouldn't say flourish, but like with this purpose, like something fervent. You know what I mean? Like hot, like you punch like to hurt, like to punch through. And I think that's what people see in your personality. You know what I mean? They see the fire. You kind of can't help but wear that on top. I always say, like, when you watch a person box, and if they're true to themselves and they're fighting the way they're supposed to fight, they are fighting who they are. Like when you see them, that's a descriptive of how that individual really is, their spirit, their mental thoughts, everything. Like you look at Aaron Pryor, you look at Mike Tyson, you look at Muhammad Ali, anyone Roberto Duran, whoever it is.
Also, why I think when you get like a Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, when they first fought in 1971, it was so much about your worldview, who you were backing because of who you most identified with, the depth of those personalities, as demonstrated in the Sweet Science.
Yeah,
you tended to be either an Ali man or a Joe Frazier man, and it went very deep, and it was philosophical, and for some people it was even political, like party political.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mother and father, broke up when I was a kid, and my mother left, and my father raised 3 boys, and I went. So I believe, I don't remember, but in a little shell. So and boxing was my,
the release,
my release. So I think that was how I expressed myself. But
would you have been a fighter? Would you have been a fighter if your mother stayed?
Probably not.
And would you have been an actor?
I don't know. I apparently I was a very quiet kid, a very shy kid.
Most fighters are.
And then I became a problem kid. I used to get into. I used to hate bullies. I never start fights, and this is why it offends me.
Always finish.
My whole life is the opposite. It's like I don't like bullies. I don't like. I always used to fight for kids who couldn't fight for themselves, because when you get left, abandoned, or whatever trauma you have, I think it gives you a sensitivity that you feel for others. And so I used to always see people and didn't want them to feel like me. So I would protect everybody, except myself. And so I started getting in trouble at school, and they sent me, I got expelled. And part of the only way I could come back to school, the headmaster said to my father, we got to introduce him to a newfound friend called discipline, and that was boxing. And I said, I ain't fucking boxing.
What was her name? Sorry, what was her name?
I'm sorry?
What was her name?
Who?
The headmaster.
Oh, the headmaster, Mr. Millington, I think. I can't remember.
Mr. I thought you said it was a her.
Headmasters are misters. Headmistresses are misses.
No, anyway, the headmaster said to he came to my father's house, my house, and said, I got expelled. My dad had to go in to see the headmaster. My father didn't go in. So eventually the headmaster came to my dad, and I was sat on the steps, I'll never forget. And he said, he's a good kid, but he's angry. I don't know what happened. And my father said, well, since his mother left, he's become a little bit angry. And so they said, we got to get him in some kind of discipline. And I have a friend who has a boxing gym. Let's take him down the gym and they'll straighten him out. And so I said, I'm not going. And so they literally dragged me there 4 or 5 days a week. And that's slowly I started to fight.
Can I ask one more question before we finish the story? Can I ask one more question, Gary?
Yeah.
In the frame behind you is a picture. That's really interesting art. What is that?
Which picture?
It's a frame.
It's on the window.
No, that's the computer.
Oh, wow.
You think that's really interesting?
I thought like you framed a small picture. I was like, wow.
No, that's the computer from the window, I think.
Yeah. Nice touch. You really thought about this backdrop, Gary. Well done.
No, I rushed in because I'm late. So.
Yeah. Guys, is
Like,
there?
how
You know
come
what we should call it? Sugar.
It doesn't come into that picture then when he goes there. It's like seeing Dracula. How he doesn't have a shadow. Then how come we can't see he could be a Greek vampire?
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this. I really don't, Michael. I believe Gary was going to suggest an alternative title for the show based on these.
Okay, but I have to figure this out. I can't understand how we could reflect from his computer through his head and onto the glass.
I don't care, but that's me. I want to hear his alternative suggestion for the show title.
Oh, okay.
Sugar, silk, and late.
Yes, there you go. Sugar, silk, and late. I was hoping it would be better than that.
Latte.
Yeah. Well, as in what was that, latte, right? Yeah. So, we should do
coffee.
Yeah, exactly, guys.
Well, listen, let's get back to the fight.
Yeah,
we got to go now. We're out of time.
The main event? You want to say something else about the main event, Gary? Or do you
I want to talk about why you believe Liam Smith is a better fighter than Chris Eubank Jr.
I didn't say he was. All right.
Ben first.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. It turns out Gary's the anchor now. No. So anyway.
No, I want to know because I don't get it.
Okay. Well, let me tell you. I remember when Eubank first turned pro, and there was a big buzz about him in the industry, and people like Ambrose Mendy were saying this will be a world champion and he will be a special fighter. Believe me, I've seen enough to know this. And he was very impressive and dynamic and athletic when he first started. There's 17 uppercuts he'd hit guys like Spike O'Sullivan with, and all the rest of it. And then I remember being in, I walked into Rooney's gym one lunchtime, and he was sparring with Patrick Mendy, and Ambrose was there, and he said to me, "Can you do Patrick's corner? You can help him out a little bit, give him some water and a bit of advice." And he was very strong and dynamic, and he would just seem like a young man who really was going places. I don't think he's ever really found his identity in the ring. I think, like you said, I think whenever he's stepped up, he's been found a little bit wanting. My friend Billy Joe Saunders definitely beat him clearly enough that time, even though he died of it in the closing stages. But Billy Joe won 7 rounds straight against Eubank. George Groves stood Eubank on his head back in 2017. We've detailed what happened against Liam Smith last time, and I just feel that you think he's all going to click and crystallize hopefully tomorrow night with Bomac and all the rest of it. But I wonder, his dad. You talk about his dad training him. His dad went on record as saying he never trained him as such. He said we harness him, if you will. Yeah, he said he's like an auto, like a car with. On cruise control. He said, we don't train him. No, Ronnie Davies doesn't train him for a start. He never really had a great lot of influence. And you might remember when he said that Ronnie Davies was only there to put Vaseline on his face that time, which was a bit disrespectful.
What channel is the fight on?
Sky. If you're in America, what is it? ESPN? Is it, I believe?
Or maybe ESPN, yeah.
Yeah? But Gary, I don't think he's ever found his identity in the ring, which you seem to agree with that essentially, and so does the Silk, while admitting he hasn't seen so much of him. I don't think
he's found his identity in his life. I think, and it's like my acting teacher. I worked with an old lady. She worked with Brando, Sidney Poitier, Hoffman. She worked with all the great teachers, all the great actors.
She worked with me.
She said you can only be as much as a fighter, as an actor, Gary, as you are as a person.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you bring your life to your work. You're as good as an actor as you are as a human, and so. I really believe that it's somewhat similar in the fight game. Unless you have a certain comfort in your life, I don't think you can get a certain comfort in your career. I just think he's never found. I don't think he's
sometimes
ever.
You need that class.
You know what it's like, Michael. You could even with a fight, like I used to go to fights and I'd want my brother with me and my dad, and we'd go, and it's like I wasn't going to the fight. Like my life was going to the fight. My family was, this is it. We're going. So when you have a breakup in that whole module, I don't know. I think Eubank has survived on raw talent, and he's done very well, and he's made a career and he's made money. But I'm not sure if he's ever been I'm not sure if the kid's ever felt comfort, or I just think, and you call me crazy, I just think that he's found the right guy, he's found the right situation, And it's not Roy Jones who's a bigger name than him. It's not his dad who's a bigger name than him. He's found a fucking situation where he can shine, and these guys are gonna make him the best him he can be, not the best father. They're gonna get behind this kid and say, all right, we're gonna make you the best you can be. Forget everybody else. Bomac doesn't give a fuck about Chris Eubanks. He's got Terence Crawford. He's the greatest fighter ever, maybe, possibly.
Not ever. Come on, please.
No, but he's up there. You know, he's certainly. He's not worried. He's not worried. Crawford's up there, trust me. But
talking about the all-time top 25 or something. I don't know about that.
Crawford's in the top 10.
There's a lot of competition for that, Gary. That's another show. That is some.
What was the statement?
Put the top 25 in with Crawford, he'll find a way to beat him. Trust me.
What the top 25 greatest fighters of all time at any weight? Crawford's in that, or the top 10 usually. Top 10. Not a prayer in hell. He's in the top 10.
I say you're completely wrong. I'll tell you something. Freddie Roach, who was my trainer years ago, told me 10 years ago when he was training Pacquiao at his prime, I will never put money in with Terence Crawford. I said, why? He said he will fucking kill him. I said, why? Manny was in his prime. He said, I will never put money in with Crawford. I said, why? And he kept.
But the only thing can prove that correct is time. Time is the only one. Does he have the tools? Yeah, the kid has the tools. You know how many people you both know how many people we've seen come through boxing and crazy talented, and you'd think, man, I mean, I've seen people as talented as Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard.
Sure, and they didn't manage to do it with the resume.
You know what's amazing? He's not Sugar Ray Leonard, who's my favorite fighter, but he's this fucking working machine that just beats everybody. That's what's interesting. He's not my favorite to watch. He's not my favorite style.
Yeah, none of that. I mean,
it's just like an operating machine that functions and beats
very, very much like Hagler. No bells and whistles. Straightforward, hard worker, and he pays his dues and gets what he deserves. I totally understand that. Hits hard. He's fast enough to hit anybody. He looks like he's pretty, like he can take it as well as he can dish it out. And the guy, I mean, look, he was a competitive wrestler. That kind of strength that he has is, you know what I mean? It's just you can't compare to it.
I could live with the idea, that he's one of the top 10 greatest welterweights of all time, but the idea he's in the top 10 greatest pound for pound fighters ever, and we can make that call now.
Wait. You said Crawford is one of the 10 greatest welterweights of all time?
No, listen, I said I could live with that assertion if that was what Gary was making. If he's talking pound for,
You can't live with that.
I can live with it easier than the idea he's one of the greatest bar none. And when he's going up there with Willie Pack and Sam Langford and Harry Greb and Ray Robinson and Robert Duran and Muhammad Ali, I can stomach it a lot easier than the more outrageous assertion. Yes, but the
thing is when you
tell me a welterweight who would be
the lighter stuff, you make it easier for the bigger stuff. You can't give
tell me a welterweight that would beat Crawford, Ben.
Well, I think Sugar Ray Leonard could have beaten him. I think Sugar Ray Robinson could have beaten him. I think Tommy Hearns might have beaten him. I think if you have a fight on his hands against the Duran who beat Leonard. I think Donald Curry is a handful for him.
No, come on.
Yes. Oh, yes. Donald Curry's a welterweight.
Amazing, but Lloyd Hunnigan I sparred with a lot, and he was not great. Trust me.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
I have my way with Hunnigan every day of the week.
I bet.
And Hunnigan went over and beat Curry, which shocked me, but.
That shocked everybody, but I mean, you got
to put gauges. When I sparred with Lloyd, I found him
plain. All the rest of that kind of stuff.
No, I found him. He was a good fighter, but he was nothing. He was not
extraordinary.
I thought he was going to get murdered by Curry, and I was shocked. I don't know if it was weight. I don't know if it was.
They say it was, Gary. They say it was.
I heard it was said at the weight. Yeah.
It's never just one thing. It's never just one thing.
But in any case, guys, we should do this because obviously that's another discussion we can have, and that could be
entertaining. It's a lot better than you think, Ben.
I didn't. Honestly, God, Gary, I really do rate him highly, but I think we need to put this in perspective another time. Are we good?
I didn't think he was that good. That's true, but I'm here to say that I think that Crawford, I respect him. He has incredible ability, and he looks everything you're saying he is. That's what he looked like in his last fight, and that's what he's looked like in every fight that I've ever seen. But
but what?
I just, I didn't want to counter
what if he goes up and beats Canelo? What will you say then?
Say again, what?
If he goes up and beats Canelo, what are you going to say then? Canelo's old?
God,
No,
I won't minimize it. That would be a fantastic achievement, Gary. That would be such a legacy. His legacy is fantastic if he retired tomorrow, but that would be truly amazing on the level of the Henry Armstrong.
It's sad because he doesn't have the panache of a Leonard.
No, he does. I think people appreciate him. People definitely appreciate him. That boy is a hardworking.
He really does.
Great shooter.
Business.
He's brilliant, but it's just that it's a very rarefied air. You just put him in, and I don't know I don't know how much of a historian you might be or might not be. I know.
He won, and that kid he beat was damaged too. He was hurt.
Yeah, he was. But honestly, these are all topics we can go into, fellas. Do you fellas fancy meeting again Sunday night to see who got it right and wrong about Smith Eubank Jr.? Can we do that?
Yeah, sure.
Should we have a small bet?
Okay, I'll put a bob on. Do you still do bobs over there?
Yeah, shillings and all that kind of thing. Yep. I believe so. In the chip shop, I don't know. Do they still take that in the chip shop, Gary?
Well, I was asleep. I was unconscious. I don't know.
You don't pay, do you? You just say, "Do you know who I am? I want the fucking large chip."
Some rugby player knocked me out. I was unconscious. I have no idea what happened. So I was going to give them all a bob, but I got bobbed.
Gary, rugby player. I'd like to see him try.
Hey, I would catch a bus before it hit me on the chin. I would,
Can you explain to our stateside individuals what a bob is?
A bob is like 5. Go on, Gary. You're older than me. Go on, you tell me.
I'll give you a shot first.
Okay. It's 5 pence, like a shilling, I believe. It's
how much is a shilling?
Because we've got this phrase, haven't we? Like a 2 bob individual. It means he's not worth much. He's kind of a cheap guy. If he's a 2 bob CUNT, that's English slang.
Do you know how funny this term is? That's just hilarious. You can go so many ways with that.
So, Silk and Stretch, will you let me close this show? Do I have your permission?
Okay, well, yes, and I'm glad that you put up a fighter of all time up above you. Yeah. So undefeated, you know what I mean? You got Muhammad Ali up behind you. I commend you on that, Ben. And Yeah.
Listen, and this is my last word on anything, this show. When we had that debate, Ali Robinson, who's the greatest, even though I know why I said what I said and I represented it and I still believe it, but I feel if that was a fight, you won. Your ring generalship, the way you scored points in that particular debate, I feel that you won that. And I do appreciate the fact you're always outside the box, Silk. You don't buy into anybody's narrative, no matter what. You don't accept anything unless you've tested it in a fucking laboratory, in a test tube. And that's why I love you,
Oh, shucks, thank you.
Okay, so listen, guys, I hope you love all of us too. We certainly love you. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry we didn't engage with the YouTube, with the Facebook viewers tonight.
I love that.
Comments on the studio, but we'll address those when we get off there. We'll be back Sunday night, even better than this one. I'll bring the guitar if I remember. In the meantime,
bring the guitar.
In the meantime, be lucky. Don't do anything.
We have a new podcast. When you cannot sleep at night, tune in. Ben will play guitar.
It'll be called
Lullaby.
The only way Ben used to knock people out was he got the guitar.
El Kabong.
I never used to knock people out. No matter what. No, it's just
You brought the guitar out and they went straight to sleep.
Those punches looked real crispy on the opening. Your punches.
I did wonder if I felt a bit embarrassed putting my footage next to you guys. Obviously, on a vastly different level. But your left hook of Barclay is absolutely beautiful. Gary looks savage and as hell when he's breaking up Derek Warmold. But I like the fact that you like that for 1-2 right hand left hook. Right, it was okay. So
I was like, all right, you're lashing out. I love that.
That was the most savage bit of footage I could find of me to go with your knockouts. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week. You two hang around. Peace out. Now I'm looking for the fucking mouse to end it. Sorry.